Hello and a very warm welcome to today's Linkability Insights and live stream. I'm your host, Lynnaire Johnston. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're turning our attention to reinventing yourself on LinkedIn and maybe some other places as well. This is going to be a mid-career guide to career change, visibility and confidence with a special guest from Sydney, Australia, Coach Jane Jackson. She's a career coach. She's going to be joining me in just a moment to answer some questions about how in this day and age, people who are wanting to change their careers midlife can go about doing that. Now, this came about because I was sharing my story recently with someone who was telling me that they are seeing a lot of people, as am I, who are suddenly being made redundant. They might be in their 50s or potentially early 60s and suddenly finding themselves what they think is the scrap heap. Now, I don't agree with that for a moment. I'm a great believer in reinventing yourself and doing something different. You might remember that last year in November, I interviewed Henry Oliver, who's the author of Second Act, which talks all about reinventing yourself and being successful later in life. And he had a lot of great examples of people doing exactly that. Now, for myself, I realized when I turned 40 that by the time I reached 60, I'd be unemployable. I, with my grey hair, wouldn't fit the culture of a company. I'd be probably too expensive to employ and potentially too opinionated, but maybe not. So I set about making sure that in my later years, in my later career, I would still have a relevant role. And that's why I went out into business on my own. I began as a freelancer, and then I set up my own business, Word Wizard, as a copywriter. And then more recently, in the last few years, as you know, I've become a LinkedIn specialist and working under the brand name Linkability. Now, of course, we've got a members community around Linkability that is going great guns, and it's a fabulous thing to watch, to see how it's developing, people learning about LinkedIn and having a great time to do it. Now, the problem that a lot of people are facing, however, is the result of what's going on outside most of their and our control. Economic circumstances are changing all over the world. A lot of business is here in New Zealand and no doubt in Australia and other countries closing down, particularly small businesses, and they are finding that it is tough economically all the way around. Now, when you add in the arrival, or may I say deluge of AI, then things are getting even worse. And I'm constantly seeing clients who are telling me they've been made redundant. They're middle managers or general managers, even national managers in some cases, didn't expect redundancy to happen to them. Now, that is the issue that we're going to be looking at today. Redundancy is one part of an overall picture that many people are seeing in their business and professional lives right now. So we're going to be talking to Jane about that in just a minute. First of all, a little bit of housekeeping. In the comments, my producer here on Linkability Insights, Chef Ferguson, will be dealing with any issues, any questions that you might have. Please do ask questions. We want to make sure that we make good use of Jane while she is with us. Jane's a top voice, so she knows a thing or two about coaching, career coaching, and also LinkedIn. We have no doubt in our audience today to our Master Connector, Meryl Cass. Hi, Meryl, and thank you so much for inviting people to join us today. If you are in the audience live, we'd love to hear from you. Please do say hello in the comments and tell us where you are from. And again, we invite you to ask questions if you would like to do so. So now, without further ado, I'm going to welcome Jane to the stage. And Jane, hello, all the way across the ditch to Sydney from Dunedin, New Zealand. Kia ora, and how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And it's lovely to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm very excited to join you today.
It's a pleasure. And I was on Jane's podcast. We recorded an episode just last week, and that's just come out this week too. So I'm really excited about that one. That was a bit of a different sort of a thing for me to do, Jane. So you pushed me outside my comfort zone. So let's start by you just telling us a little bit about your background, because I'd like people to know that you have a book and that you have a career coaching program. So just tell us a little bit about those to begin with.
Okay, well, I'm a career coach, and I think most people on LinkedIn know that I'm a career coach because I talk about careers all the time. I'm the author of Navigating Career Crossroads, which is a definitive guide, really. It's the A to Z of how to make a successful career transition, right from managing the stress of redundancy through to onboarding, negotiating for a good role, and onboarding. I'm the host of Your Career podcast, on which Lynnaire has just joined me as well. It was really good to turn the tables on Lynnaire and grill her about her life. And I have a career success program, which is a membership program where I provide lots of online support 24/7, as well as live group coaching monthly. And I provide one-on-one career coaching, bespoke coaching for those who really want to deep dive into the specifics of what they want to do next in their careers.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I find that many people want to improve their LinkedIn profile, but they don't actually know what it is they want to do. They know they want to change, or change has been forced on them, and they might have been in jobs most of their life that they didn't really enjoy. And now the pressure, potentially financial pressures off, the kids are off their hands, they don't have to worry so much, the mortgage might be paid, and they can then look at doing something that they really want to do, rather than something that they've had to do for the past several decades. So I'm a glass half full person, Jane, and so I see challenges like this, redundancy or making a pivot midlife, as an opportunity rather than a challenge. Well, they are challenging, there's no question, but they're also opportunities to do something that might be a little different. So I wanted to start by setting the scene really from your perspective, because you've helped thousands of people at career crossroads in your own career. And I'd just like to know what's the most common fear that mid-career professionals face when they realise it's either time to make a change or they have no choice but to make a change.
Okay, good question, Lynnaire. The thing is that what we have to remember is change is constant. That's the only guarantee. No matter how good something is, you know it'll change at some stage. No matter how bad something feels right now, it's going to get better. So change is constant, and change does mean opportunity as well. It's a bit scary when there's organizational change happening, and across the world, it's not just Australia and New Zealand and America, really, there are so many redundancies. And currently in Australia, we have 2.2 million people looking for a role, and that's a great deal of people and a lot of competition. So first of all, if you're thinking about what you can do next because of a redundancy, before you jump the gun and create your resume and do your cover letters and update your LinkedIn and do all that sort of stuff, take a deep breath, take a step back and reassess what you've got, what you've done in your career so far, what you've enjoyed, what you haven't enjoyed, and really get clear as to who you are as an individual before you start marketing yourself. I found that a lot of people, when they go through a redundancy, the first thing they do is, oh my goodness, I have to get my resume out there and send it out as quickly as possible. And then after a while, they come to me and say, Jane, I've sent out hundreds of applications and nothing's happening. And of course, because you haven't planned a strategy. So really, the first thing is take a step back, reassess what you've got, don't think catastrophically, because sometimes it can be a little bit stressful or very stressful when you're going through a redundancy, because it's a choice that was made that wasn't yours. And we like to make our own choices when it's forced upon us. It's a bitter pill to take. And then you think, oh, I gave them the best years of my life. And it's very concerning for those who've been in the same industry or a similar role for many, many years, and they're not used to that change. And so take a step back, rebuild your self-confidence, manage your stress levels, and there are many ways that you can do that. And I could talk about that if you like, but manage your stress levels so you can think clearly and then assess what you really want to do next.
I find a lot of people come to me, Jane, who don't even really have a good understanding of their personal point of difference, what makes them unique. And so consequently, their LinkedIn profile, and no doubt their resume, is very bland. And when you are in the job market, and there are lots and lots of people in the same job market as you, all vying for the same sorts of roles, you have to stand out. But I think it's difficult for people of a certain age, not the younger folks, because they grew up with social media and video, but those of us who are a little older really have to look at ourselves in light of the current world in terms of having a professional brand, and most people would say they don't if they've been in management, say for example, and they haven't had to be out there and be visible online anywhere, and they find that prospect extremely daunting, because all of a sudden what has worked for them before is no longer working for them now, and that's why they are sending out hundreds of resumes and not getting any response, because they are not identifying their strengths and what makes them different, and then finding a way to go about that in a way that employers respond well to. So why don't we just flip that, and you tell us a little bit about how that resonates with potential recruiters or people looking to employ people when they see those resumes that are beige, that have nothing to recommend them, and they're like every single other one in their great big pile on their desk. How do they respond to that, and how do they determine who they're going to look at in terms of interviewing, and then and obviously through that process appointing someone?
The worst thing is to be bland when you're a job seeker, because with a sea of other job seekers and a sea of competition, and if you're a mature age worker, and recently these reports from the Australian Human Rights Commission and Australian HR Institute, they found that most recruiters, well, not most recruiters, but more recruiters now think of people over 50 as old. It used to be just about 4 or 5 years ago, it was 10% of employers thought old was over 50. Now it's almost 25%. And I was so disappointed to read that, because I thought things were supposed to get better because people are working towards a more inclusive workspace. But when it comes to inclusivity, somehow age has been pushed aside. So if you're a mature age worker and you're looking to reinvent your career, it's really important to find that point of difference, who you are. And what I do when I work with my clients is we go right back to the foundations, because until you understand yourself, you can't really express who you are to anybody else as well. So what is, I really recommend that you take a life inventory, take stock of where you're at right now in a number of areas in your life. That would be, of course, your career, your finances, your relationships, your physical environment, and all importantly, especially as you get a little bit older, your health, your physical and mental health. Because once you know where you're at holistically, then you can start to think, where do I want to be in my career? This is something that I take my clients through using my career clarity pack when I first start working with them. So we take a life inventory and we find out what's okay in their lives, what's good and what's not so good, and do they need to do something about that first before they can feel comfortable enough to market themselves for a job? Because if you're not feeling very healthy, if you know your mindset's not good, or physically you're feeling really exhausted because you've been working for so long and you've given your heart and soul into the company, perhaps your health is suffering a little bit. So it's important to take a full medical checkup, make sure everything is ticking along nicely, assess where you're at in your relationships as well. Have you got support? Have you got that emotional support you need to see you through a transition? Where are your finances? And so if there's been a redundancy, there should be a redundancy package, but whether it's a large package or a small package, that will depend on how comfortable you feel about being in the job market. So don't start to think catastrophically. Really assess your finances and think, okay, I've got a redundancy package. How can I perhaps just draw down a certain amount every month so I can make it last as long as possible, so that I don't have to feel stressed when looking for a job? Because statistically, it's about 3 to 4 months to make a successful career transition historically, but now it's taking people longer. So you need to have that buffer when you're looking for a job. And if you're worried about, I need the money, I've got to pay my bills, you're going to be so stressed that you're not going to project confidence during your interviews. Okay, so anyway, so a life inventory is important. Then assess what are the values that drive you, and think about your previous roles. What satisfied you? Were your values in alignment with the employer, with your manager, with your team, with the industry itself? What made you happy about the job? What made you not so happy? What really got you goat and cheered you off? And you just thought, oh, I'm just going to grin and bear it. So be really aware of the common thread that comes through all the different roles you've had in your career, because there will be a common thread of, oh, I really enjoyed teamwork or collaboration, or perhaps I really enjoyed working independently or on my own, or I loved the travel, or whatever it might be. So there'll be something that will have seen you through all the different roles you've had in your career, and certain things make you feel good and satisfied, and there will be some things that always annoy you. Maybe it's the office politics, or some people enjoy office politics. You know, everyone's quite different. So find out what it is that motivates and demotivates you, so you have a clear picture of who you are, and then assess ultimately, what is the legacy that I would like to leave as a result of my time on earth and the work that I do? Because if you understand who you are, that's when you can start to brand yourself. So going back to not being bland, it's important to really understand the essence of yourself so that you can project that and know what your mission is in life, because we're all here for a short period of time. We may as well make it count. And worrying about just a job for the job's sake, yes, we do need the money, but it's important to think, okay, if I'm going to be spending about 90,000 hours plus in my career working, it does need to be something that is satisfying and rewarding, and financially rewarding too. So we can reverse engineer once we know what sort of legacy you'd ultimately like to leave. That was a long answer, wasn't it, Lynnaire?
But it was a great answer, because it covered a lot of ground. And what that really shows me is that if people don't do the work that you're talking about there, do that life inventory, then when they get to me, they don't have those questions answered. They don't know what makes them different. They don't understand what values are important to them, or whether they're going to be a good fit for companies that they are applying to join. And those things are important, and they become more important, I think, the older you become, because your time is becoming shorter and you want to make it count, and you want to be doing things that you enjoy. And a lot of us have spent many years in jobs that we may have kind of been okay about. Some of us will have spent time in jobs we absolutely hated, and we had to. There wasn't another choice. But I think as we get older, And the world has changed so much, Jane, that there is always choice now in terms of what we can do. And over a lifetime, we've amassed a huge volume of skills, expertise, knowledge, and experience. And all of that, I think, can come into play when you are looking to pivot or change industries or roles in midlife. And I believe that once people understand their points of difference, then it really does help them to see what they do want to do. But I often find it difficult for people when I'm working on profile makeovers, particularly with them, is for them to understand not only what makes them different, but the skills that are associated with that. So you talked about people liking a job because they get to travel. Well, what can you reverse engineer into that is a transferable skill? And then how can they portray those skills as being something that is useful to a potential employer? Because an example would be, you often see a skill listed on LinkedIn as communication and strategy and leadership. And you just go, but it means nothing. Everybody can say that about anything that they do. This isn't going to make you stand out. What is going to make you stand out that is different from everybody else who is lining up for the same job as you? And so do you have any ideas about how people can highlight their transferable skills on their CVs and resumes and on LinkedIn without sounding vague or generic? Because I think people struggle with this one.
Yeah, being generic is honestly, it's the worst thing possible, because everyone can say, oh, I have leadership skills, I have communication skills, I can do payroll, I can analyze stuff. And sure, okay, so prove it. If you can do it, prove it. And in order to prove it, you need to tell the story. And in order to know what your story is, you need to think. Okay? You need to think in advance and take a step back. I said earlier, when you're going through a redundancy, it's very stressful. You take a break, take a step back, breathe and consider. So first of all, I'd say take a little bit of a break and clear your head. Then start to think back on what have I done that was actually of benefit to the organization, and really made a difference in the roles that I've held in the past. So think about what made a difference. Did I streamline a process? Did I improve profits? Did I reduce waste? Did I mitigate risk? Did I create something new? So all of these things will give you examples of the benefit that you bring to an organization. And so if you just mention, say, a skill like payroll, well, okay, you were responsible for payroll, but you might have been rubbish at it, yes, but it was part of your job. So there's no point saying a skill, because we don't know if you were good or not. And so it would be much better to say something like identified the need to streamline a payroll process, implemented this new method, which resulted in, a savings of X number of dollars or a percentage improvement. So it's, what was it that you did that resulted in this thing? And then that means that if we have a short bullet point in a resume, people will think, oh, you did something good. Okay. Or if it's to do with, say, leadership or communication skills, then perhaps you could say something like mentored and coached team members to excel in a certain area, which resulted in perhaps someone had managed to secure a promotion as a result of your mentoring and coaching. So you need to be able to tell that story and to identify the specific skill sets. Think back to each role that you've had, the different responsibilities that you had, and rather than listing responsibilities, think, okay, how can I turn this into an accomplishment story? And the method that I like to use is you take, okay, what was the situation, problem, or challenge that you faced? So that's number one. And then what were the obstacles around that? challenge. Next is, what were the actions that I took or that I led my team to take to resolve that particular challenge or situation? And what was the result? Now, the result could be a tangible result where you saved, 50% time over, 2 months, or you saved $50,000 over a 2-week period, or accumulating over a year, it was this amount. So it could be tangible, or it might be intangible and a perceived benefit, such as improved morale within the department. And so once you can identify the situation, the actions you took, and then the result, that's your story. And during interviews, you can talk about the story. And because it's like a 1, 2, 3 process, it's easy to remember, even if you're nervous. But if you're well prepared, you can remember that specific example. You can take the action and the result and use it as a bullet point in your resume and also in your LinkedIn profile at the right places. And so you start your accomplishments with like an action verb in the past, like designed, developed, grew, implemented, improved, extended, mitigated, whatever risk it might be, by doing something which resulted in this wonderful outcome. Now, once you've done that, because you've got so much information there, have a look through it and analyze it and talk to someone about it as well. Because sometimes, you can't see the forest for the trees when you're doing it on your own. And you look at it and you think, what skills did I use to get that accomplishment done? And it could be your communication skills, interpersonal communication skills, influence, negotiation. It could be your analytical capabilities. It could be leadership. It could be your negotiation abilities. So you'll be able to pull out additional skills that perhaps you hadn't realized you were using just by doing that exercise. And then you can add them into your skills section on your LinkedIn profile, but you always must have the story behind it, because without the story, you're going to be bland.
And on your skills section of your profile, you can link to the role where you used it. And if you have put that story into your role on your experience section, all of a sudden it all ties together, doesn't it? And, in the old days, Jane, that process that you talked about was called a case study. Nowadays, we call it storytelling, don't we? Hasn't time moved on? And consequently, there's been a lot of talk about storytelling on LinkedIn. And most people think about it in terms of posting. Now, people who are in mid-career and looking for a new role are not likely to be posting on LinkedIn, or not very much anyway, and certainly not consistently. And so the question then becomes, whereabouts do they put those stories on their profile? Because you have mentioned putting it in when talking about with the company, and because you have 2,000 characters in each role that you have listed, you have a fair space to be able to talk about your story. And I think that's an excellent place to put it. But do you recommend that people put it in other places? And so far, we've really just talked about writing the story. At least that's how I've taken what you've said. What about doing it in other ways? Can we tell stories in other ways? And if so, where can they go on LinkedIn?
Okay, so now your accomplishments, you don't need to put all of them into your LinkedIn profile, and you don't need to put all of them into your resume, because first of all, with resumes, there may be a page limit. And remember, the shorter the resume, the more impactful it is, because you'll be able to tailor it for specific roles. So a 1 to 2 page resume, max 3 pages, is good. And remember what a resume is. It's a synopsis of your career highlights that's relevant to one reader, the screener. Okay, or in the case these days of AI, the bot that does the screening, because the applicant tracking system is what goes through and passes through the job description and your resume in order to give you a percentage match. And if you get about 75% plus match, perhaps a human being will read your resume. If it's lower than that, you probably won't get read and you'll get an automated, "Thank you so much. We have so many highly qualified candidates. We will keep you in file and never contact you again." Okay. But okay. So where you can put your accomplishments in addition to in the experience section, and be selective with how many you put under the professional experience section, because you don't need to put them all. Just put the impactful ones that demonstrate the skill sets that you want to highlight. Once you've done that, under that particular job title, then you add those skills to it, okay, so that it's like a double whammy in a way, which is good. You can also select for your about section just the best ones, the ones that you really want to highlight. I've got these skills and I love using them. So high enjoyment level, high competence level, those are the ones that you want to highlight in your about section, because that will project you in the desired direction, because I'm sure that you want to do more of what you love to do, that you happen to be very good at as well. Yeah. And you can also add it very briefly, but we'll need to strategize how in your headline, if there is a particular thing that you want to show that you're able to help organizations do. You can also add it in your banner subtly, not with a long sentence, but you can allude to the thing that you're able to achieve. If you can craft, you can use Canva to craft a very good banner as well that might highlight a specific skill that you want people to know about you. So lots of different places where you can add your specific skill sets.
I've got want to take that a little bit further too, but first of all, Cher's got a question here about how common is AI applicant checking by bots these days? It's a very good question, actually.
Far too common, in my opinion. Okay. It's when you submit an application online, especially if it's for a large organization, or if you go through seek.com or monster.com, it is most likely it will go through an applicant tracking system, the ATS, and people tend to get all concerned. Oh no, the bots are scanning my resume. But no need to worry. It's a productivity tool for recruiters and screeners. It makes it easier for them because there are so many applications. But the problem is that when you are screened by a bot, you know that what they're doing is they're matching apples with apples. So the keywords and specific competencies they're looking for in a job description are going to be matched against your resume. And so most job seekers are quite aware of this now, unless they haven't looked for a job for a long, long time, that you need to match up what they're looking for with what you've got to offer. In the old days, when it used to be the Saturday classifieds, remember those days? And when I first started coaching 24 years ago now, we'd get all of those, we'd open the newspaper, something really unusual these days, open the newspaper, look at the classifieds, and I would cut out the job ads for my clients and go through the job ads with a highlighter pen, like this little highlighter pen, and highlight all the keywords. So old school, right? And then I would have a look at my client's resume and think, okay, have we demonstrated those skills that they're looking for in the resume? And then I'd ask them, do you have those skills? And what examples have we got for them? So if they actually have those skills, then we need to work it into the resume so it's a match. In the days when human beings used to do the work, yes? Now it's all automated, and basically that's what the bot does. It passes through the job description with all the keywords and requirements, then it passes through your resume and it's looking for a certain percentage match. If you get that certain percentage match, then the recruiter will probably open it up and have a read of your resume. When I was in recruitment, this is what we were told, is that over this percentage match, then look at the resumes. Don't waste your time on looking for lower matches. And a couple of times I thought, why would someone with this 25% match even bother? Okay. Yes. Why would they bother? So I'd have a look and I'd read through, and actually there were they were very, very good resumes. They just used different words. Now, these days, because it's been a number of years since I was a recruiter, but these days the AI is a lot more sophisticated, so it's able to analyze your resume against the job description, even if you haven't used the exact wording. As long as you allude to that, then you might get through. But if you want to be on the safe side, make sure you do include those skills that are required, as long as you have them. If you don't have those skills, don't you go putting them into your resume, because it needs to be truthful as well. Does that answer the question, Lynnaire?
Absolutely, it does. And someone else has asked something that I think you might well have just covered in what you were talking about here. Charles is asking about whether humans really are reading resumes. And I think you probably mentioned it after the first cut, maybe, but not until that point. But so much more of this is now being handled by AI. I think that begs the question, really, is how do we make our resumes and LinkedIn profiles too AI friendly? Does that take an entirely new strategy on our part, and not necessarily just for job seekers either, but also for anybody who wants to be considered for a role, say in 12 months' time, or wants to make some kind of a change when the right role shows up? So I think that really we need to, I'm asking a question really, are we making our profiles and our resumes AI friendly enough at this point?
Yes, well, I have my thoughts on AI, and I'm a little bit over AI. I like AI as a productivity tool, but it causes so much angst with job seekers, because it's like, oh, you know, the bots are coming to get me, they'll screen me out. And yes, it is very frustrating. Now, what you want is to get a human being to read your resume, okay?
Yeah.
And so if you are relying on online applications only, then it's going to be a hard slog. To be quite honest, what you want to do is to have your resume and talk to a person in real life and hand them your resume, so you know that they're going to read it. Okay, so that human interaction, you cannot beat networking for your next role. That is where most of my clients land their next job, is through their network and through referrals, because that's one way of getting over the whole AI thing. However, there are still jobs advertised that you will want to apply for. And so if you are going to do that, then make sure that it's AI friendly by, first of all, with a resume. Don't use a template that's got lots of formatting on it, because it makes it harder to be scanned. If you put things in a text box, it might not get scanned. If you've got a lot of shading and bolding and underlining and fancy fonts and clever things because you want it to stand out, it might mess up the system in the scanning. If you're going to make it look fancy, because say if you're in a creative industry, do it when you're giving someone a hard copy or emailing it to them so that they can actually see it. But simplify it for the job application online, so that you know that the words that you include in your resume do get scanned in. That's the most important thing. With regard to LinkedIn, then making it more AI friendly, the LinkedIn has the skills section, and you can have up to 100 skills. So if you want to be screened in more frequently, make sure you use as many skills, or put in as many skills as you can into your LinkedIn profile if you have those skills. Don't just willy-nilly plonk skills in there. Okay? You have to be able to demonstrate that you can do the job as well. And that's where our accomplishment stories come, back into the circle.
That makes sense to me. And since you've just raised the stories, again, I'll go back to some ideas that I had around that before we got sidetracked on AI bots, like we tend to in real life, it seems to me. Anyway, so you mentioned the About section and roles for adding your stories on LinkedIn. Now, I think that LinkedIn is extremely visual these days, particularly on our profiles, where people don't necessarily know all the options that there are available. And so, for example, people are not often aware that you can add a video to your featured section. And that's a really good place to tell your own story, really, about who you are and what you do, who you serve and how you help. And I think that's something that people need to be able to demonstrate, the use of video. And so putting a short video that can be 1 to 2 minutes long into your featured section is a really good way for people to be able to see you, first of all, hear you, second of all, and get to know you. Because if your video is full of enthusiasm and life and energy, then that goes a long way to combat ageism, I think, because the general consensus is as you get older, you get tired and you can't string a sentence together. Sometimes I can't sing it. You know what I mean? So consequently, I think that we need to look at
over 50 is not over 90.
No, I think it's fair to say that there were some world leaders who are certainly demonstrating some of these characteristics. Anyway, let's move on, because I think that video is important, and on your LinkedIn profile, it's important too. So when you put a video into your featured section, it needs to be hosted on YouTube or Vimeo. Now, that's really easy, particularly putting it onto YouTube. You can make it unlisted and private there, but you can put it onto your profile and make it be seen. Also, if you have the services section enacted, then you can put videos into there, that are native videos. So they don't have to be hosted on YouTube or Vimeo. And that section sits right above your featured section if you are a premium member, which we will come back to. So I think that there are more options to tell a story than the ones that we have that people might just think of naturally, because you also mentioned the banner and the headline. And so I'm a great believer in thinking about LinkedIn laterally. And if you've got something that you've worked on, which you might call a story or a project or a case study, then add a project section into your LinkedIn profile that is separate from your roles, where you can talk about something specifically that you might have done, and you can then list those achievements and the results and the whole process. And I think most people don't understand the value of that either. And that sits right in the middle of your profile. So anyone who is a recruiter or a potential employer is likely to see that if they are paying attention to your profile. So put it in there, make it readable, and make it sound like you. Don't just make it sound like AI. Make it sound like you've written it, and that you are enthusiastic about what it is that you achieved and how it all went. And I think that there are a lot more places on our profiles that people could be using to demonstrate all of this that we're talking about here today better than they actually do. Now, I don't know an awful lot about resumes, except that it's much more stringent in terms of what you can do. Now, people like you and I, who have had long and successful careers, have got a lot we want to say, and so our LinkedIn profiles are quite comprehensive. Trying to get something down to 2 to 3 pages is not going to be easy when it comes to a resume. But I think then that where I'm taking this is that if you're working with a resume that is structured to be read by one person, the person who is advertising the job and or their bot, then it might pay also on your LinkedIn profile to be very specific about things too, and lead people through. Now, this is a question really, and I have no idea what the answer is. If you are writing a resume for a particular job and a cover letter to go with it, does it then make sense that in your cover letter, you refer to your LinkedIn profile and direct them to it, maybe even include the URL of the section where you might have it, the project section, for example. Share that URL and invite the person who is reading the cover letter to then go to your LinkedIn profile, which is a good way to get them to go there. And there they will see more details about the project that you've done that shows all these transferable skills that you have then added into your resume, because it's going to, you hope, appeal to the person who is advertising the role. Is that a thing? Can you do that in a cover letter, or is that just completely outrageous?
Well, you can absolutely do that. There were many questions in there, Lynnaire.
Yes, there were. I'm a bit like that, Jane. Apologies for that.
I feel like I'm in an interview and I've been asked a multi-pronged question. Where do I begin? Well, I would like now to just rein you in a little bit Go back
Please do. Somebody has to.
the media, because you remember you asked about the accomplishments and where you can add them in, and the featured section and everything. Absolutely spot on. So good. And I love the featured section because it can really highlight, and it looks so big when you look at it on the computer or on your device as well, because it's quite prominent, and so it's the perfect place to have a video. I just want to add that there's also a voice pronunciation feature, which is very handy. You only get 10 seconds, but you can actually say a lot in 10 seconds that will let people know what it is that you bring to the table, very briefly. So think about the most important thing. And if you want to see it in action, I have my voice pronunciation feature active on my LinkedIn profile. And in 10 seconds, you know exactly what I do. That there's another area where you can add media too, because I love it, and I know, Lynnaire, you love media so much, is in your professional experience section, you can add media, you can add links, you can add documents. And I've got a number of videos that I've added under certain roles that I've held as well. So that really expands each job that you've had and each company that you've worked for and what you've done. And you can add lots and lots of media too. If someone's really interested in finding out about you, the more they can click on and explore, the better. Not everyone's going to click on everything that you do.
But if sorry, Jane, they can be native videos. They don't have to be hosted on YouTube or Vimeo. I've just forgotten this one.
Yes. Yeah, they can be native videos, and because I've got quite a number under certain roles that I've held, and some of them are videos, some of them are an image. I mean, if you've won an award and you're shaking hands with someone who's giving you an award, that's a beautiful image that you should add onto your profile as well, because it'll show that you've been not only in words do you put your awards, because there's an awards section, but to actually have the image of you receiving the award, it's a lot more impactful too. And that project section that you mentioned, Lynnaire, fantastic, because if you collaborated with someone else, you can add them to that project, and it's just very easy. You can add them in, and then that project turns up on their profile too. And so it's like a thank you to the people that you collaborated with, which is wonderful. Now, what was that question? Resume, cover letters, should we link
in your LinkedIn?
Yes.
Can you put a link to your LinkedIn profile section, because some of the sections have their own individual URLs, and should you do that? I mean, the project section I was thinking of particularly, actually.
I think it's really good if you're going to be sending your resume in a PDF format to someone, and you know that they're going to get it and they're going to be able to click through, is at the top where you've got your name, perhaps a little headline on your resume as well, and your contact details, which will be email and mobile. Add LinkedIn, and then you can hyperlink it to your LinkedIn public profile URL, so people can go straight to your LinkedIn profile and see everything you've got there. I think that's a really good idea, because LinkedIn, we write it in first person, and it really is, it kind of showcases us, doesn't it? We let our personality come through on LinkedIn, whereas, to be really honest, resumes are so boring. I have never seen an exciting resume. I mean, it's great with the job titles, but it's black and white. It's a document, basically. And so with LinkedIn, it fleshes out with images and videos and audios and all sorts of wonderful things that you have done, hopefully. In your cover letter, yes, you can add links to the different sections. If you've got a lot of recommendations, you might even want to add the link to your recommendations on your resume or on your cover letter too, if you feel that it's appropriate. But certainly projects, definitely, if they're large projects or projects where it's had a really successful outcome, then that is proof in the pudding that you do bring value to any role. So yeah, that's a good thing to do.
So what other LinkedIn features are there that are suitable for people who are wanting to pivot in their career? And this really actually should go back to basics, really. How do they, if they've got different role? No, that's not really where I want to go with that one. I want to ask more about how people show a change in roles on their LinkedIn profile. Because if you've been doing something for one kind of job for a long time, and then you either want to move into a new role or you have been forced into something that's a wee bit different, how do people go about making sure that it gives the right impression on LinkedIn rather than the wrong one? So that I don't really see that people should be saying on their profiles that they were made redundant. I'm not quite sure that I think that's a good idea. But I'd be interested in your opinion on that one. But where people are changing direction, that's, I think, a sticking point for a lot of people. Do you have any ideas about how people can do that satisfactorily?
Okay, well, first of all, is this for people who are already out in the job market, or is this people who are in a role currently?
I think who are in the job market, really. Let's start with those people.
Yeah. Okay, so they don't need to worry about whether their employer sees that they're changing direction and get all worried about it. Okay. I mean, some people are just fed up with their roles and they want another job and they want to say, no, I want something completely different, but then their boss another idea. But okay, so if you're already in the job market and you've had many years working in a specific job function and you want to make a pivot or a career change, it could be a change back to something that you used to do before because you enjoyed it more than what you've been doing more recently, or it could be a complete change into something different and new, and you need to be able to highlight that despite the fact that your most recent role has nothing to do with what you want to do next. And so the best place to do that is where you can tell the story, and that's in the About section, because in the About section you can talk about what really drives you, what you're passionate about, the solutions that you provide. And even if people don't initially see how you can make that change, everything that you transition into, there are transferable skills. There are skills that will be required in just about every role. Interpersonal communication is a transferable skill. Your ability to lead and negotiate and influence, these are all skills that are transferable. Your analytical capability, critical thinking, all of that, they are transferable. So you can talk about those skills in the About section and explain why you want to make that change. It could be that you have always been passionate about the not-for-profit sector, for example, and it has been a focus for you to be able to make a positive impact in this particular area. So you talk about that. Tell us the story. And what I always like in the About section is, rather than saying, I am a operations manager with 10 years experience in whatever, because that's deadly boring, isn't it? It's better to start that About section with a problem that the people you want to attract may be having. So, I mean, for instance, for me, most of my clients say, oh, Jane, am I too old to get a job? And so what do I put at the beginning of my About section? Yes, you can reinvent your career, whatever your age. So that's the problem they're experiencing. I don't say I'm a career coach. I just say, yes, you can. So that means when they land on the profile, they'll think, oh, someone's giving me a solution to my problem. And what you're doing is you're attracting the audience that you desire as well. So there are many ways in that About section to tell the story if you're making a pivot, because people will then understand. Yes. In your resume, in the professional profile section up at the top, you can, in that final paragraph, say, you know, normally we don't put an objective, but if you're making a pivot, you're making a change, then it would be good to highlight it. It could be seeking whatever direction and to fulfill this desire as well. So tell that story, what you might want to do, and you spoke about this, Lynnaire, and using video, because you're fantastic on video and you love to tell your stories as well. Oh, and Lynnaire's garden, amazing. I know all about her garden because of her videos. Okay, just had to put that in. And I'm going to do gardening videos too, Lynnaire. I haven't done one
Oh,
of
good.
these
Great. Excellent.
in my tiny garden compared to yours, but I'm going to do it out in the garden because it's quite pretty too. And I'll pay homage to you when I do it. But hang on, I've gone off track now. So back to how you can highlight why you want to make a change. Do a video of yourself and talk about, after so many years working in this industry, you've always been focusing on this area, which is what you felt very strongly about, and now this is what you're offering. But always give them a good reason to watch you and listen to you and make contact with you because of the value that you bring. So you need to do the research into the direction that you want to go in. What is it that really attracts you, and make that as compelling as possible when you're doing this video or audio or telling your story or writing an article about it. It would also be helpful if you're making a change to start to beef up the connections in the industry and the direction you want to head towards, because that means you're going to get more connections in the area that is interesting to you. Hopefully you know some of these people. If not, reach out and have the conversation. And when you reach out, give people a good reason to connect with you so that you can start that conversation. It's nothing worse, than when someone sends you a connection request with no personalized note, and then you reply, because I like to reply before I connect and say, oh, thank you so much for your connection request. What prompted you to reach out? Then you never hear from them again. Why bother if you're not going to correspond with people that you're connected to, especially if you can add value to them? Because when you're a job seeker and you want to make a change, you need advice and guidance from people in the area that you want to move towards.
Wow, there is just so much in what you have just said. And I just had this really crazy idea that, and this goes back to cover letters. Again, I don't seem to want to let this go. I don't know why. But to create a video specifically for the role that you are looking at, that you then put on YouTube with a link to it, privately, obviously, with a link to it, that you then put in your cover letter to somebody about the particular role, that shows them, takes them to a video of you talking about why you want that particular role. And I can't help thinking that there are multiple advantages in doing something like this. First, it's a bit outrageous. It's a bit different. It's a bit crazy. And people might go, well, that seems a bit odd. But it really does then show that you are an innovator and that you are up with the times, particularly for those who won't see 21 again. And I think that doing something that's a wee bit different, that works with modern technology instead of against it, is probably a good thing. Now, I have no experience in this at all, except for a long time ago being a job seeker, and anything outrageous that I didn't work at all. So I'm not suggesting this. I'm really asking whether that is an opportunity for people to record a video that speaks to the role that they're trying to get right there. Just make it as simple as that.
I love video. I think it's great. In fact, what they could do, say on LinkedIn, is write an article that introduces them, because you can have a video in the banner of your articles now, and then in the article you can talk about what it is, the solutions that you provide. You can add additional links to more videos or audios or media that you may have as well. I mean, having an article about you is a powerful marketing tool. And if someone wants to know a little bit more about you, you can just send them the link to that LinkedIn article where they can see the video, they can look at more videos, and it drives them to your LinkedIn profile, which drives more eyeballs onto your LinkedIn profile, triggers the algorithm, so more people notice you. Because what you want is for your profile to pop up in a search for a specific role. Yes. And most recruiters have LinkedIn Recruiter, and they'll go searching away, typing away, keyword to find people. And what a lot of people don't know is that there are ways to help your profile pop up as a job seeker more highly on LinkedIn when a recruiter is looking for you. Because say if they're an internal recruiter, I'm going a little bit off track. Is this okay,
No,
Lynnaire?
please do tell us this, because I think this is
Helpful
yes.
for job seekers is that, say if you're using LinkedIn Recruiter and you're looking for a certain person on LinkedIn Recruiter, it tells the recruiter if that person is actually connected to the company or not. So say if you want to target a company, an ABC company, whatever the name may be, then I would suggest that you go to that company profile on LinkedIn, scroll down and see. And if the company is large enough, under the About section, you'll see there's a button that you can, a thing that you can click that says, I'm interested. And so that notifies anyone who's doing the screening within the company that you are interested in this company. So that's one touch point, and that's pretty good, so that's one touch point. More touch points would be if you are connected to people in that company. So the more people you're connected to in that company, the better. That's additional touch points. If you not only say I'm interested, but you follow the company, that's another touch point. If you interact with that company's posts and not just put in the comment, great post, because that's a waste of time. Okay. But strategically interact with the company's posts where it resonates with you and it makes sense. So you can leave a reaction, which doesn't do a great deal, but leaving a comment where you can say, this is a really interesting topic, and I would add, so you add your area of expertise in there. That gives you an opportunity to showcase what you can do, and it means you're interacting with the company webpage, company on LinkedIn, the page on LinkedIn, and it means you're really interested in that company. So that's another touch point. So that bumps you up a little bit higher when someone's doing a search and you turn up because of the relevant job titles and skills that they're looking for.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And as someone who manages company pages for our own organization and for others, I can tell you that there are very few comments on page posts. So therefore, if you as a job seeker do make the effort to comment on a post that's on a company page, it will be noticed, because it will stand out as being, if you've done it really well in the way that you described, Jane, it is going to put you at the head of any list of potential employees for interest in the company. And you also mentioned the paid version of LinkedIn, and that's a premium membership. And one of the things, there are quite a number of benefits around it, but one benefit is being able to send personalized invites, connection invites. And another one is that you can see who is a good person at a particular company to connect with on LinkedIn, who might have shown some interest in you and what you do, but also who it might be in the hiring part of the company. And I think that has got legs to people. There are a lot of features on LinkedIn to do with job hunting that most people are not aware of and they're not making good use of, which I think is a shame. And we've just been talking about the general public stuff here today. Can't help thinking, Jane, that you and I need to have another conversation about some of the job seeking features that LinkedIn makes available for those who are looking for new roles without a question. And so I think that we will wrap it up here. But Daniel, bless his heart, look at him. He's asked you what the biggest benefit someone would gain by using your service as a career coach. Honestly, you couldn't have asked for a better question, Jane, to finish off a session like this, could you?
Well, that's a lovely question, Daniel. Thank you for asking. I think the biggest benefit will be that you're going to feel supported. I'd be your champion if you came to me for coaching, because my career anchor, and you might not know about career anchors, but that could be a whole topic in itself. My career anchor is dedication to a cause or service. That is what drives me. And for the 20 years of my career before I became a career coach, I didn't know what my career anchor was. And there was always something missing. When I discovered what it was, I thought, No wonder, aha moment. That is why I have always been gravitating towards helping and supporting. And so what I do is I'm all I am, to be quite honest. I'm just a warm and fuzzy coach. I just want you to do well, and it's my business. So of course I want my business to do well, but my business and my mission in life is it's married together. And so I'm never going to retire. Okay, unless I lose my voice because I talk for a living. But what if I'm going to coach you, I'm going to be there 100% for you. And you're not just for one coaching session or just because you pay me. I'm there. I'm with you for life. I like to really make sure that you continue. And a lot of my clients have become friends as well. So you will be seen, you will be heard. Yes, we'll do resumes and LinkedIn profiles and job interview preparation and negotiation and the meaning of life and all of that. But you'll also feel that there's someone who genuinely cares. And I think I'm really glad that I can do that. I love being a coach.
And I love helping people with LinkedIn. I think we're of a similar mind in that one. Jane, what motivates us is being able to help other people, which clearly comes through in everything that you have said today, and everything that I know about you from your own LinkedIn profile, your podcast, and your book. So thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from Sydney, Australia, where I hope the weather is better than it is here in New Zealand. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynnaire.
It's been a pleasure to have you, and we'll be putting together some repurposed content from today's excellent ideas from Jane. I've been scribbling notes here and thinking about my own profile and some changes I wanted to make to it too. So one of the things I love about doing these events is that I learn while other people are learning at the same time from our guests. So really do appreciate you spending the time with us, Jane. And also I want to say thank you to everybody in the audience. I see the comments have been really busy today, so quite a lot of people have come along to hear you, Jane. So thank you very much indeed to everybody who has done that. Thank you to our producer, Chef Augustin, to our master connector, Meryl Cass. And we'll be back in a fortnight with something new, interesting, dynamic, and fascinating about LinkedIn. So we'll see you again very soon. Until then, bye for now.